Hi again, it's Mark Bergen. Today I'm going to show you how to use InfoGram and how to embed that into your story using the KOMU CMS. Once again, I'll post all of the links in the video description so you know which links to use, which tools to use this software. I'm going to flip the video around. Also, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Again, how to use InfoGram and how to embed that into your KOMU web story. Well, let's get started. So before we really dive into this, there's a text description on how to use InfoGram and how to embed that on your KOMU story. If you go to KOMUwebprojects.weebly.com, that's this link up here. You go to guides, the top right. From guides, you click link to InfoGram guide, and it'll take you to this text description that explains everything that I'm going to explain to you here in this video. So again, that's komuwebprojects.weebly.com, and again, I'll post this link in the video description. Okay, so to start out, yet again, I will recommend, if you haven't already, go ahead and make yourself a Google Drive, make yourself a Gmail account. You can embed a Gmail table into your InfoGram table. Sometimes it makes things easier if you have in mind what you want to do. You do not need one for InfoGram. I, however, think it makes things easier. For this video, I'm not going to embed something I found on Google Drive. But again, if you want to save some time, sometimes it's just easier to do. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll go to InfoGram's website, and that's infogr.am. And again, I'll provide all of these links in the video description. And so this page is my library of different infograms that I've built. What you'll want to go to is create new. So you can make a new infogram chart. From there, it's kind of, whatever style you want to use. I always kind of like looking through them, trying to figure out what exactly I want to do, and what exactly you're trying to convey. I like this design, this third one here, so we'll go ahead and use that. So it'll take you to this page, and it'll give you a blank chart template. So we'll go ahead and get started as well. This chart I'm actually not going to use. We're going to make a little bit of different chart today. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. This quote portion too, I don't think we need it either. So what I'll do is to add a chart here on the right hand menu. I'm going to click Add Chart, and you've got a whole bunch of different options. You can make a bar chart, column chart, a pie chart, line chart. You can kind of play with it. There's a lot of different charts that you can use, and InfoGram has actually added since I've started using the website. But we're going to go ahead and make a bar chart, and for this portion, we're just going to make a regular bar chart. Go with something pretty basic, pretty simple. So I added that bar chart, and we're going to go ahead and title this. We're going to go ahead and title this as well. And coming after Mizzou's first home football win this past weekend against Southeastern Missouri State, both Matty Mock and Drew Lock played in Saturday's game. So we're going to do just a quick game comparison between the two quarterbacks. Matty Mock, the junior, Drew Lock, one of the star freshman players on Missouri's team. So then from there, we added the bar chart, and it's nice because it gives you a nice little template of everything you want to put in. You'll want to delete a lot of this data, so we're only going to be comparing mock and lock. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this other data because we're not going to need it. And we'll start with Matty Mock at the top. He got more playing time on Saturday. His statistics were greater than Drew Lock's, and so I'm going to go ahead and put his at the top, and then we'll put Drew Lock at the bottom. And we'll compare a couple different categories. So we'll do pass completions. We'll go ahead and do pass attempts. Passing yards. Touchdowns. And we'll go passing touchdowns just to clarify. And we'll go interceptions. Okay, and then you can delete all of these figures that are put in there. Again, that's just for templating purposes. We'll go ahead and click absolute, and we'll go ahead and click show values too, because these are very specific numbers. You'll get this specific data after the game. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of this in really quickly, and we'll see kind of how it looks here in a second. I got to put all of these numbers in, and you can see where this is where if you have a table already, you can just copy and paste this information. And to do that, you can either use your Command C, Command V, or Control V, Control C, Control V for copy and paste. Or if you go up here to the top, you can upload the file, or you can add it from your Google Drive document. So again, this is why having a Google Drive account really helps, because if you don't have time to enter all of this data in, you can just upload it very, very quickly if it's already done. For this circumstance, though, we don't have that many. Statistical categories to fill in. So we'll go ahead and I'm just manually entering these right now. But hang on just a second. Now that we've got all of this information in there in the data table, one thing I want to show you is you can see because passing yards, the yardage that each quarterback accumulated passing, because that kind of scales your table, the x-axis to 180 right here, as you can see this figure right here, and all the other stats are much less than that. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to the edit, back to editing the table, and for this graph we're going to go into the settings of the table, and what we're going to do is we're going to group the stats together. Now this does a few things. If you see back before with the bars, you have to click through, pass completions, pass attempts, passing yards, passing touchdowns, interceptions. This grouped, I kind of like this better because it gives you all of that information in one table without having to click between the two players. So this kind of displays everything out, and because we're showing the different statistical labels, that kind of helps for the discrepancy of the passing yardage really, really scaling the table to that makes your scale much bigger. And what we're going to do as well is we'll make our x-axis range 150, even though Matty Mock threw for 181 yards, just to make it a little bit more clear. Actually, I'm going to try to scale it down. Let's try. See, 120. See, you don't want their yardage to be the same here, so let's try 130, see how that works. Maybe 150 will be what we go with. Hang on just a second. Yeah, we'll say 150. I'm comfortable with that. I'm okay with that. So you can see here, this is a really nice display, and you can see it labels that Mock is in yellow, Lock is in red. And because it's Missouri, because it's the Mizzou Tigers, I always like color coding my graphs. So if you're doing like a sports team, I always like color coding it to the team that they represent. So black and gold for the Tigers. So what we're going to do is for the chart colors, if you go into the settings of your table, you go to chart colors, you can change that. Missouri's, I just happen to know offhand. C08510, that's kind of the Tiger Gold that I go with. And then for Drew Lock, we'll just go black. So you can just drag that all the way to the bottom. Just all zeros for that. Looks like it didn't save. Hang on just a second. Just click done whenever you're done. And see, yep, now it looks a lot better. If you click out, you've got both Matty Mock in gold and Drew Lock in black, and it's a really nice chart because you can see the difference between the two quarterbacks and how each quarterback played. And so how to do that, how to know the different color codes. You might have a team like Alabama, the Crimson Tide, and so what is their exact color versus another school like Texas A&M that's a maroon color, and that's a really good question. And to be able to do that, if you're doing this on a Mac, if you go to Finder and you go into your applications, from applications, you go to your utilities, And then from there, there's a tool called the Digital Color Meter, and it's really nice. You open up the application, and any color you scan over, it's going to give you this code here. It'll give you the red, the green, and the blue number that you'll need. And so you'll just want to make note of that. Again, for a team like the Alabama Crimson Tide, their maroon color is going to be a little bit different than Texas A&M's. But again, that's the Digital Color Meter, and you can find that in your Applications menu, and then once you're in Applications, go to Utilities, and you can find the Digital Color Meter, and that's how I know what the gold code is for Missouri. So this chart looks nice. Under copyright notice, give yourself some credit for making this chart. So we're going to say Mark Bergen created this infographic. And then I always like to have a text explanation before this infographic is placed in your story, but also within the infographic as well. So we're going to add some text to it. We're going to add some body text. Click Insert. And where did it go? Okay. So within this, we're going to say something along the lines of a comparison of junior, or we'll say a comparison of Maddie Mock and Drew Lock in Missouri's, let's see, 34-3 win over over Southeastern Missouri State on September 5th. Okay, so now that you've got that explanation, looks okay. Everything looks good from here. So what you'll want to do from here is you'll click Publish here on the top right in this blue tab. And you'll have to create a title. So we'll say Maddie Mock versus Drew Lock against SEMO. Tags or commas, I usually don't worry about that, but you're going to want to click Publish for everyone. So now it gives you a couple different options. It gives you the link on the web, which is nice. You can link to if you want to just go straight to the graph itself that someone can just view on the web. But you're going to want to embed this onto KOMU's website. So to do that, you go down here, make sure it's under the embed toggle, and you want to you do not want responsive, you want fixed. So from there, double click, copy and paste it, and just using Command C, and you're going to paste this using Command V. So and two important figures you'll want to keep in mind is the width and the height, and we'll worry about that here in just a second. So now we're going to go over to KOMU CMS, and just use your login that you would for any other web story, and you'll click News. And I'm going to create a new draft. So we'll call this Maddie Mock versus Drew Lock against SEMO. And you want to make sure you're clicking News. And this is also a sports story, so go ahead and click Sports. And I would click Sports as your default category. Then you're good from there. So what you'll do, like you would any other story, game was played in Columbia, so first lead, second lead or second paragraph, like a quote, then your nut graph, and then so you want to make sure you have a few lines of, like you would when you place a map, you want to have a few lines of text before you just place your graphic. Again, if you go to KOMU's website, I'll explain here why in just a second, as soon as my internet loads. Let me try refreshing the page. Hang on just a second. Looks like my browser's a little bit goofed up. There we go. So if you go to this first article here about firefighters rescuing a dog from a Jefferson City house fire, and you can see this thumbnail takes up quite a bit of text. You're going to need some text before you just place the graphic, otherwise all the formatting is going to get goofed up in this very confined area. That's one caveat of KOMU's website, but just make sure you have enough text before you place your graphic. So yet again, once you have enough text and once you want to place your graphic, you want to click HTML, and from there, what you're going to do is copy and paste that embed code from InfoGram. So I'm just going to copy and paste it in there. Click Update, and you can see my graph is placed right there. Couple things. So we'll go back to the embed code really quickly. The width, usually about 625 is okay. You might want to play with that a little bit. And the height was a little bit long for this chart, and you can see that by how much white space is between these last few text pieces, and then at the bottom it's going to have this. It's going to have your title and create infographics. You want to make sure there's as little white space as possible between here. So I'm going to go ahead and decrease the height here. It's at 695. I'm gonna narrow it down to about 670. Let's take a look after. Yeah, it's a little bit better. We're going to go a little bit lower. Let's go 655, we'll say. And these are the amount of pixels that your graph takes up on your screen. You can see the chart here, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this. And then again, before your graph, you just kind of want to explain it. So I would say in the chart below, or we'll say the chart below shows the chart below shows a statistical comparison of Matty Mock and Drew Lock during Missouri's game against SEMO on September 5th. And that just kind of explains to the viewer what exactly they're looking at. So then from there, once your graphic is placed and if it looks okay, you can go ahead and click Publish. I'm not going to do that. I do not want to confuse a working newsroom right now. But again, this is just a really cool way to explain how Matty Mock did versus Drew Lock, two quarterbacks for Missouri, and I know Lock was a big recruit for Missouri coming in, and Mock was as well. But you can kind of see, you can kind of compare the two. And so while Mock played more of the game, he had more pass attempts. He also had more completions, but at the same time, Mock was the one who threw an interception, while Drew Lock was able to take care of the ball. So you can explain this all very, very quickly in a very, very quick amount of time, rather than writing all of this in text. And that's really the beauty of InfoGram, is that you can explain all of this information in such a concise way, but a viewer can see it visually much more quickly than he or she would be able to read all of this information. So, from there you would publish your story, and again, you just want to be able to explain to your reviewer what exactly he or she is seeing without, being super, super text heavy, and that's really the great part about InfoGram. I'm going to change it back around to wrap up this video. Hang on just a second. Okay, so just to kind of recap here, a couple of things. Again, I would go ahead and make a Google Drive account. I've said this multiple times now. I could not recommend it enough. And if anything, 15 gigabytes of cloud storage. Again, to do that, I would save all of your things on that, just in case your computer ever craps out. So that's one thing. Also, with using InfoGram specifically, like with Google Maps, don't try to use it on a day-turn story where you're either going to have to turn a package or a VOSOT or whatever your story is for that day. Try to envision what's going to happen in the future. So with Missouri's first game, you might have known, if you followed Mizzou football at all, that Drew Lock was probably going to play in Saturday's game. And so that would just be an idea of, okay, how is he going to compare to Matty Mock? Or let's say you want to compare Matty Mock's performance to another quarterback in the SEC, like Mississippi State's Dak Prescott, or like Tennessee's Joshua Dobbs. Maybe you want to compare both of their statistical numbers as a preview to the game, or maybe their game performance once the game is over. Just kind of have a vision ways you can use InfoGram. And again, it's a really great tool to display and to display something where you don't want to use a heavy amount of text. You can display statistical information much more clearly than you can through a lot of text. Again, play with it. Like I would go ahead and make your own InfoGram account. I'm not sure if Annie's gonna give you the login for KOMU's account, but I would just go ahead and make your own. Play with it and do that outside of class. Do that when you're not trying to turn a day-turn story, but do that at a down time, and then that way if you need to be able to use it, you can do it really, really quickly. It's the type of thing where if it's a very, very basic chart, I can put something together, whip something together in less than 5 minutes. And also, lastly, and this is a really, really underrated, piece of advice is make sure you color coordinate, especially if you're doing something with sports. If you're not able to add like the logo of the team, match the colors of the team. And again, to do that, you want to use the digital color meter. And again, every MacBook Pro has that tool. Just a lot of times Google it if you're not sure of what a color code is as well, and you can put that in. But if I'm comparing Alabama to Missouri, you wouldn't want to have Alabama be black and gold and Missouri to be the crimson tide. You wouldn't want them to be red. That's just confusing to your viewers. So make sure you color coordinate, especially if you've got different sports teams. But that's all the advice that I have. I'll go ahead and put up my email as well. I'm happy to answer any questions. Talk to Annie as well. She knows how to use InfoGram really, really well. But thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it as always, and hopefully this was a clear explanation for you. All right, enjoy.